We're going to bring y'all into our huddle.
Today's Thursday, December 19th, 2013, and you are in the NBA Huddle with me, Bram, and with me as always, my boy and producer, Scott.
Scott here.
Scotty, what's going on with you today?
Just getting ready for the holidays. A lot of loose ends to wrap up.
Have you actually done any of your shopping? You already put that behind you? You seem like the type of guy who would get on top of this stuff and not have to do any last-minute moves. Amazon
has made things so much easier. It's just great. This year I'm having a bunch of gifts that I need shipped, so I had to order them a little early. So yeah, I'm on it.
Shockingly, I have done none. Just zero of my shopping, and the fact that you threw out how easy it is to have done it early is making me feel a little bit angry and resentful, but it is what it is. Enough about the holidays. The Warriors just welcomed back Andre Iguodala, so you know we got big things to talk about, buddy. In our Warriors update, we're going to go through the Warriors' last 3 games, talk about the terrible loss to Houston. I am so tired of that team, Scott. And the encouraging win against New Orleans, a game that just happened, a couple nights ago. And then in a return to a brand new segment, one run by you, called...
So, what's ahead?
You're going to add that so. So is going to be part of that, huh?
Yep, and it's got to be said like that too. So if you're going to say the segment name, get that so in there, a little pause, and what's ahead?
I'm going to go ahead and just call it what's ahead, even though I understand that it's wrong. And my understanding is you're going to bring us through all the upcoming games next week, since we're not going to have an opportunity to actually record.
Yeah, we're going to be away for the holidays, so we'll discuss the storylines of those games that are upcoming. So we'll give you what's ahead.
Did you add that so there on purpose, or did that just come out perfectly for you?
Came out. I wouldn't say perfectly, but it just came out.
Well, before we jump into any of those subjects, let's knock out a little bit of housekeeping. Uber is still there. They, in fact, are not a pay app. Turns out that they are free to download, but they still remain my favorite application for the iPhone and probably any kind of phone you have out there. The bottom line on it is that if you are looking for a cab, don't have any cash, all you got to do is press a button and they come to you. A couple other things. One, last week we announced that Jermaine O'Neal was having season-ending right wrist surgery. We were half right. The right wrist surgery did in fact go forward, but it's not season ending. Jermaine came out December 13th and dropped the following tweet from his account, quote, "And by the way, Dub Nation, and to all my other supporters, I am not out for the season, contrary to some of the medical reports. Warriors," and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 exclamation points. So he was pretty fired up about that.
And that's what you got to love a source like Twitter. Hearing it right from Jermaine, this is not being filtered by anyone. If this news had come out from somebody else, I'd really question it.
Sure.
I still question whether or not he's really going to return this season. But it's nice to actually hear it from the source himself.
Unless, in addition to undergoing surgery, he also went through medical school. I'm not sure if we can definitely turn to his opinion on whether or not he's coming back. I'm happy to see it. Not so happy to see the 7 exclamation points. Not a big exclamation point guy. Don't really ever see the need to drop one. You and I have had this argument. We don't have to do it again. But nonetheless, it sounds like we're going to be welcoming Jermaine O'Neal back at some point, which is good to see because he does add a lot to the team, not only physically, but apparently mentally as well.
It'd be huge if he could come back from a playing standpoint, but also, as we talked about, from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah. And it turns out if you have right wrist problems and you need a quick second medical opinion, go to Jermaine O'Neal. He'll be able to help you out with that. Second thing, this one's kind of random, and I'm really surprised it escaped our normally watchful eye. Steph Curry got a tattoo. I think it is his first one. It is on his right wrist. It's a Hebrew tattoo, so as a Jew, that fires me all up. And apparently it translates roughly to, quote, "Love never fails." Not a whole lot to do with that information, but nonetheless, there is in fact a tat on Steph's wrist.
I haven't seen it yet. Is it big?
Very small. I noticed it only because I think I was checking out fantasy information on Roto World, and they said ESPN reported it or focused in on it, whatever the hell it was. They threw it out there, and then when I went to the New Orleans game, a game we're going to be covering in a second, I did in fact see it when they put them up on the big board. So it's not a lot.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm not a huge fan of it.
I can tell you are nowhere near as excited about that tattoo as Jermaine O'Neal's was to just tweet out the word Warriors. I'm going to need some more enthusiasm from you here.
Well, maybe if it had 7 exclamation points after the Hebrew character.
Fair enough. You've got me there. Last piece of housekeeping came from an email. Why don't you take us from there?
It did. It came from an email from Taraz, who we brought up last week about whether or not Draymond was a clutch player.
Personal friend of yours is what I remember.
He is a personal friend of mine and a great individual. Here's what he says. "What up, fellas? Good work on the show. A couple of points about the last podcast. Of course, I got to respond if Bram's going to call me out. Draymond isn't a clutch player. I love the guy at Michigan State and think he can be a good contributor now and in the future, but he's worse in the fourth quarter. In the fourth, his field goal percentage goes down, his three-point field goal percentage goes down, his free throw percentage goes down. Not only that, he's definitely not, quote, probably the most clutch player to come out of the second round, end quote, like Bram was trying to say. He's not even the most clutch second rounder of the Warriors have ever had, exclamation point.
Just one?
Yep, just one.
That's too bad.
Steven Jackson and Monte were both more clutch, not to mention Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc, Nick Van Exel, Ginobili, Gilbert Arenas, Dennis Johnson, etc. Second point.
Is this an email or a novel?
You ready for this? The second point here? Bram, if you're wrong, either own up to it or make the case why you're not. Saying go fuck yourself to everybody that writes in contradicting you is kind of lazy. Besides, it'll let you win that over-under cursing bet if you come with something else. Keep up the solid work, Taraz.
Any more exclamation points or just that one?
Just one.
All right, well, I would be more than happy to respond to the points. Let's take them in turn. One, let's start with something surprising. I agree with Taraz. Draymond, in fact, is not the most clutch player to come out of the second round. Fortunately, that's not what I said. Let's go back to the clip here. All right, a couple other things on this game. One, Draymond Green is maybe the calmest down the stretch second-round player I have ever watched, certainly in recent memory. Now, that one I'll stick by, especially since I was smart enough to kind of couch it with the recent memory take. Those other players that Taraz was smart enough to list have a much longer career, have done it in the clutch. Steve Kerr specifically has won a finals game with a three-point bomb that got Jordan another title, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you a second-year player out of Michigan State could somehow out-clutch him. But I will say that having watched him for 2 years, that guy does not fold. He doesn't look nervous. He doesn't shy away from the spotlight. Whether or not clutch is the appropriate term, I stick by the first statement.
I guess it's hard to really objectively decide if somebody's calm or not. There's no stats we can look to. I think these stats speak for themselves on the fact that he's not performing better in the fourth quarter, which is when I think clutch players should be performing better.
Now, thank God you said that, because it dovetails perfectly into my second point. The concept that you can use stats to determine whether or not someone is clutch, I think, is also off base. Let me give you a stupid example. If, let's call him player X, fuck it, let's call him Draymond. Damn, that's one. I only got one left. Let's call him Draymond. Draymond goes 0 for 10 in the fourth quarter. Cannot hit a shot. Doesn't do anything except the final shot of the game goes to him. They are down 2. He makes the shot, gets fouled, and hits the free throw, right? Wins the game on the last play of the game. Now, if I go to the box score, look just to the stats in the fourth quarter, he was 1 of 10. And if shooting 10%, that would look like he was awful. But if that last shot was the game winner, and he in fact went to the line to win it, there would be no question that he was clutch. In fact, I would argue that the stats would show that he was more clutch. He couldn't hit them until they absolutely mattered.
I agree that the best barometer is whether or not you hit a game-winning shot or missed a game-winning shot. I think everyone would agree that that's the most clutch moment, but there's a lot of clutch moments that happen before that last shot, which I think are extremely important. And really, 2 points is 2 points. So whether or not you hit in not that's exactly ridiculous. Because 2 points in the fourth quarter is definitely can just really bring momentum and save the game for
2
you.
points is 2 points doesn't make any sense. If I score the first 2 points of the game and the last 2 points of the game, there's no question that the last 2 are in fact the most clutch. But what I'm telling you is that using stats to determine something like clutchness, I don't think is a very effective way to do it. It's like using stats to determine who's funny. There are certain things out there that pass eyeball tests, not necessarily statistical tests. So I'm going to disagree with the way that he's characterized it. The final thing he said, the idea of using "go fuck yourself," and there's my second F-bomb, as a way to counter an argument is lazy. Of course he's right. For point of record, anytime I'm using it, it's not a counter argument. It's a transition. If you go back there and see what the hell I'm saying, I do it for a nice little funny effect, and then off we go to the next subject. Most importantly, Taraz, honestly, really appreciate you listening. The idea that you'd reach out to us is phenomenal. Keep the takes coming, and go fuck yourself.
Well done.
Thanks,
you're so lazy.
All right, well, let's move on, baby. Let's go to the Warriors update and start with the pass scores and current standings. Warriors have played 3 games since our last podcast. They had a December 13th loss to Houston at home, 116-112. I am so tired of those Houston losses. December 15th, loss at Phoenix, a surprisingly good team in the West who I haven't really accepted yet, but I guess we'll go through that when we're talking about the game. That one was 106-102. And then most recently, December 17th, somewhat redemptive win at New Orleans, a game that featured the return of Andre Iguodala. Let's not do what we've done the last 2. Let's just handle these consecutively, and let's start with Houston. Before we do, I forgot, Warriors are now 14-12. They are tied for 9th in the West, a game behind Phoenix and Denver. I checked that real tightly this time.
I bet you double-checked that.
No, like 4 or 5 times. I did not enjoy being wrong last time at all. I'm telling you that right now. And incidentally, I didn't get a chance to say this last time. When I paused it, I was so sure I was right. Scotty, oh my God. I wanted to shove that up your ass so badly. So the idea that you pulled that out, good for you, man. It absolutely killed me. Last thing, 2 things interrelated worth mentioning. The Warriors are now 11th in the power rankings, exact same position they were last week, so no movement there.
That's fair.
But I'll tell you who did move. Washington, who now finds himself as 21st.
That's
in the power
ridiculous.
rankings. So, I mean, they're
That is
just
ridiculous.
terrible.
They're the 7th seed in the East. How does that get you into the 20s in the power rankings?
Who's the 8th team? And I was going to put in a WNBA reference there, but I don't know any WNBA team names, so I wasn't sure what to throw in.
Detroit Shock.
Okay, is it the Detroit Shock? The joke's ruined now. I mean, I can't pick it up. All right, let's talk Houston. First game worth our attention was a loss to Houston at home, 116-112. A couple things bothered me, Scotty. This should have been a scheduled loss for Houston. They had played the night before on the road at Portland, lost that game, came in to Golden State, which should have been a rivalry game. They should have been tired. They should have been the team that looked tired and out of sync, and it was the exact opposite. Warriors not only continued a concerning trend of starting out slow, but they just got outworked at every stage of the game. Point of reference, they got beat on the boards 56-32. They got beat points in the paint 66-40, and they got beat 25-8 on second chance points. If you're playing a team that's coming off a back-to-back, those kind of hustle stats should not be in that direction, man.
It speaks to what a rivalry this is, though. And guys on Houston want to, get this victory and beat especially against the Warriors. So they got fired up for it. That was pretty clear. And they're a young team, so the back-to-backs I don't think affects them quite as much.
I agree with you. This is a rivalry. Why? What's happened? Was it last year's close games? Was it their attempt to break the three-point record? I mean, because I get all fired up for them too, but it's not one of the easy ones, like a localized one, like against Los Angeles because they're in our same state. But what is it that's causing this kind of inner hatred between these two teams?
A couple things. One, they've been neck and neck come all playoff races the past couple of years. Sure. So they're constantly battling each other in the standings. 2, Dwight Howard shunned the Warriors and went to Houston.
I shun yous.
Yep. I was feeling good about that. And 3, the game last year where they hit the most 3-pointers on the Warriors.
And it got ugly.
And it got ugly. Yeah. And so all it takes is one incident like that, and you got a rivalry.
I'll add a 4. Chandler Parsons has the most smug, punchable face. I know I'm the only one who thinks this.
You just can't get off this. You
it.
sent a tweet today.
I can't stand it.
Almost a week later after the Rockets game. The Rockets, there was no reason for you to tweet out anything about Chandler Parsons today.
Do we have time for me to tweet about it again right now, or should I wait till post-show?
I'm sure that's what you're doing under the desk right now.
I'm just thinking about it. I'm really thinking about mentally, visualizing myself punching Chandler Parsons right in his smug face. We should say the Warriors did, in fact, make a comeback, as they have done in every one of these games. They didn't come out strong. They used a 14-2 run spanning the third and fourth quarters, got a floater from Spates at 8:09 remaining to take an 85-84 lead, but quite simply, it just was not enough, and they ultimately lost the game.
How about when Dwight Howard goaltended the crap out of Draymond's shot?
Yeah.
And then Draymond was so mad he runs down the court and just flagrant fouls James Harden.
I'm going to tell you a
secret.
secret.
That was a favorite moment.
To tell you a secret right now that I shouldn't tell you at all. I got Dwight Howard on my fantasy team, and I desperately needed blocks. And when he got that,
God.
As opposed to being angry about it, I did a little silent fist pump right next to my side. So I should feel guilty about that. Strangely, I don't.
For somebody who you claimed to be calm, Draymond Green, in that instance, was not calm in the least.
Wasn't down the stretch.
I don't know exactly when it was in the game. I want to check that now.
Well, if he wasn't calm, it wasn't down the stretch. Do I need to play that quote for you again?
Because seriously, you lose by 4 I can't remember if they made the free throws or not on that, but you got to make smarter plays than that if you're gonna, you're gonna be in a close game with this team.
Draymond Green might be the most dirty player out of the second round. Taraz, save your email. I'm sure there's people out there who are far more dirty, but you'll remember in that game we were just talking about, the Houston one where they almost set the three-point record, it was Draymond who not only delivered the final foul against Patrick Beverley, but it was a flagrant. He hit him around the neck. So this guy can be nasty when he wants to be, which is something I like about him. As long as we're throwing out credit to Houston, although I guess all we said was Dwight Howard got a goaltending thing, let me give credit to James Harden. He absolutely killed us. Iguodala didn't play in this game. We didn't have anyone on the perimeter who could slow down Harden in the least, and he got to the rim pretty much at will, ended up with 26 points and 9 assists, and also earned the quote of the night.
This is James Harden. This song's for you, girl. I know you wanna see this chest. I know that you want me, 'cause I look the best. I wear my shirt open, so you see my chest. I know that you want me, 'cause I look the best. Let's go out for seafood, or have a shrimp fest, girl.
Generally unusual for someone to bring their own musical accompaniment. And I mean, it's not enough that he beat us. He had to go out and sing his single.
Oh, a little karaoke time in the locker room.
Huge fun for James Harden. I literally cannot get enough of that song. And every time that I play it, I end up singing the hook line over and over in my head because it gets stuck in there.
Oh, this is one that will definitely get stuck, as will Steph Curry's remix. Speaking of Curry, he got absolutely smothered by Patrick Beverley.
We are on fire in the transitions here. Boy, that was nicely
Yeah.
played. Yeah, well, tell us about that.
Thanks for bringing that transition to a screeching halt.
Go ahead, Patrick Beverley. All right, what do you got?
All right, so Patrick Beverley, smothering D, a night after he smothered Damian Lillard, now he's on to Steph Curry. And in those situations where Curry's being guarded so tightly, you need to move him off the ball.
Yep.
But that requires having a point guard who can then handle the ball.
And without Iguodala, that's not happening.
And that was a huge problem where they couldn't get Curry going because he had to do the ball handling responsibilities.
You're absolutely right. It wasn't just Curry. Combined, Steph and Clay made just 2 of 12 three-pointers and combined for half of the team's 18 turnovers. What made it even worse is that Dwight Howard had only 1 less three-pointer than Steph and Clay combined. In the second quarter, he drilled a 3, and incidentally, the Houston bench celebrated like they just won the championship, which was a little bit frustrating for me and fairly good for the fantasy team, but we don't have to focus on that. This team, for some reason, always makes me feel like we don't have a chance. Collectively, the Warriors have dropped 18 of the past 22 to Houston, including a 105-83 drubbing on December 6th. Maybe it's because we didn't have Iguodala. At one point, we tweeted out that losing to Houston without Iguodala is like racing the Indy 500 with only 3 wheels, and I believe in that. But at some point, we have to either beat this team or recognize that they own us because it's getting a little bit embarrassing. All right, let's move on. Well, you know what? Let me give credit one last person, Spates. I've hated Mo Spates all year.
Yep.
He has been firing up 20-footers like it's the thing to do. At one point, I was hoping that instead of shooting those 20-footers every time he touched the ball, he'd just punch a baby in the face because that would actually bother me less. I also think he looks a little bit like Shrek, but I won't go too deep into that. What I will go deep into is he had a season high in points, 16, season high in rebounds, 9, and really did his best to make it a game. In fact, it was him who brought us very close to coming back in this.
The stats are impressive, but what impressed me more was he was playing with passion and enthusiasm and looked like he was finally having fun and enjoying himself.
And he wasn't hesitant. He knew exactly where the hell he fit in, and he carried that over, in fact, in the next 2 games. So maybe we're finally getting something out of Mo Spates, something we have not seen all year. All right, now we can finally move on. Let's move off to the Phoenix loss. This was 106-102 at Phoenix. With that game, at that point, the Warriors had lost 9 of their past 14, and they went right back to their usual tricks, man. They started off crazy slow, fell behind by 13 points before the half, and they had a series of turnovers, showed absolutely no passion, and it wasn't just us who noticed it. At this point, the assistant coach, Pete Myers, saw the exact same thing. In, I think it was the third quarter, Klay Thompson threw a terrible bounce pass. It's picked off by Eric Bledsoe, leads to a 3-pointer by Dragic on the other end, who incidentally is the most European-looking guard I've ever seen in my life. And in the timeout that followed, Myers went batshit. He went after him, took a bunch of shots, showed the kind of passion that we've been calling for a little bit from Mark Jackson. So apparently this stuff is starting to piss off the coaches as well as the fans.
I feel like a broken record, just saying the same thing. The slow start early, then they mount the comeback. Turnovers continue to be an issue. I'm getting pretty tired of it. Incidentally, Dragic and Bledsoe calling themselves the Slash Brothers.
No, I haven't seen that. That's bullshit.
What do you think about that?
I think it's completely derivative. I think they need to show some kind of originality. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. Now, I will add that the Splash Brothers, or our boys, is undoubtedly a reference to the Bash Brothers for Jose Canseco and Mark McGuire, so none of these are exactly original, but at least that took it from one sport and transferred it over. These guys are blatantly copying us, and I don't care how well they're playing. I don't care that they're above us in the standings. This is a team that went into the year that was desperate to tank and are now finding some kind of success. I don't believe in these guys, man.
That's what I keep saying to myself, but they keep winning, and it just blows my mind that Phoenix is above us right now.
How often do you talk to yourself about Phoenix? Pretty frequent?
Every time I check the standings.
Before we get too far away from the Pete Myers thing, an episode ago, we were talking about how many technicals Mark Jackson would have. And the whole reason I thought it'd be over the 0.5 we set it at was that I thought he would show this kind of passion. He would try to spark the team to action. The fact that it was Myers who got all angry on the bench and it wasn't Jackson makes me think that maybe I was off base on that. Although I will say, post-game, Jackson did take some shots at the team. Here's Coach Jackson.
We are not playing 48 minutes with a sense of urgency, and that's the disappointing part.
Frustrating is that something you guys have talked about is the slow starts and everything, but it seems to kind of keep...
Right now, I wouldn't say it's a slow start. We're just not playing with a sense of urgency. We came in talking about we had to be the hardest working team. This team plays extremely hard. They're talented, and we did not do that. Disappointed, and we've got to find answers individually and collectively. I'm finding it that the guys in the suit and tie want it more than the guys in uniform. And it's just disappointing right now. We're going to be fine, but it's disappointing to once again lose in the same fashion that we lost.
It's a rare thing for this group. It hadn't been very often that you've wondered about their energy or...
Yeah, it is rare, but we're going to get it right. But you got to call it what it is. If you're able to talk about how great they are individually and collectively, then certainly when they're bad, they've got to be able to take it, own it, and let's get better.
Mark, why are you so convinced they will be fine?
I believe in these guys, individually and collectively. I believe in them. I know what they're made of. I know how good we can be and how good we will be. And that's why I say that.
That's as ugly as Jackson's gotten, at least as far as I can remember.
That's some great coaching, right? That is takes me back to the high school days where my team would just get blasted repeatedly by a coach, and you knew after a game like that the next practice you were going to be running nonstop, and every little thing you did was going to be nitpicked, and if you didn't do it 100% right, you were going to be on the line.
I had a coach in high school named Shorty, and this wasn't one of those ironic titles. The guy was legitimately like 4'1". I mean, he was a midget for sure, completely fucking insane. I had a terrible first half of going to the locker room. He gets down on all fours, again, not joking, and barks at me for 30 seconds. Strangely, it wasn't as motivated as I think he thought it was going to be. I had no idea how to translate those barks into some kind of game advice, but maybe if Coach Jackson had been there to kind of help out Shorty, it wouldn't have been so confusing for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's classic, like the guys in the suits have more passion. I mean, that's just a classic coach line.
And the whole collectively and individually, he loves that stuff. Last take on Phoenix before we go off to New Orleans. Bledsoe, half of the Slash brothers had 24. Fry had 20, who is incidentally the most skinny person I've ever seen. He is in the running against like a number 2 pencil as far as the most skinny thing I've seen in recent memory. Also, random aside here, are there other numbered pencils? Or is there like a number 3 pencil? Like, why the hell do they number those things if there's not any variation?
So it's definitely a Google question right there. I always wondered that.
I'll Google it after this.
Another note on this game is Tony Douglas came back. Only played 6 minutes, but good to see him back. Need to work him back into the rotation. Obviously, 6 minutes, he wasn't able to do very much.
He looks like he's about 55 years old. I know he's not. I know he helps the team, but every time I see him, I feel like one of the assistant coaches had to step in because the players were hurt and we had to turn to 56-year-old Tony Douglas. All right, let's move off to New Orleans. This game featured the return of Andre Iguodala. It also featured me. I got to go to this game. I hadn't been for a long time. Quick story, Scotty. We went with the wife. We sit down, and Erica immediately asked me, have we always been sitting in these seats? And I condescendingly say, yeah, we've had the same seats for at least 5 years now. And she brings it up over and over and over again. And every time I kind of reassure her, yeah, I don't know what you're saying, but just watch the game. At the end of the game, she goes and talks to the pot-bellied usher, or the belly touch usher. And he confirms that, in fact, no, I was wrong. They have pushed back all of our seats. Turns out what happened is, they renovated the Coliseum, or the Oracle Arena this year. And what they did is they added an extra row of first row seats. And I knew that part because they pawned it off as some kind of an advantage. When they gave us the renewal package, they said now it's featuring a whole new row of courtside seats. I don't care because I don't sit courtside. Well, it turns out in order to do that, they had to drop one of the non-courtside seats, and as a result, pushed everybody back a full row without telling us, man.
But kept the numbers the same. So say you were in row 15 last year, it still says row 15.
That's exactly right. And I am in row 15. So two things were proven. One, my wife is absolutely smarter than I and recognized something else. But two, that is a shady move. What? I'm not giving up the seats. I'm real happy with them, but I do plan on having a little talk with Warrior Melissa, my ticket rep, because they didn't say crap to us, man. And the only way they brought it up is they pawned it off as some kind of an advantage.
I don't even understand the pawning it off. That's clearly not an advantage to you.
They're like, who would care if they have an extra? If I'm not sitting in those seats, why would I care about it? So, this podcast is 99% positive, but I got to take shots when they are due. Moving somebody back without saying anything. I have fought for those seats for 7 years. You push me back without saying anything? That's not right.
Except for the fact that you didn't even notice it until 5 games in and your wife
brought
it up.
Well, I've noticed it now, baby, and I am furious.
Well, hopefully Warrior Melissa doesn't hear this because she'll realize that it wouldn't have been an issue.
We'll have to recut it. We'll have to recut it right after this and make it a little uglier. All right, let's actually turn to the game. I mentioned it. Let's dive into it. This did feature the return of Iguodala. He looked a little rusty, which makes sense. He's been out for 2 to 3 weeks now. Only ended up with 2 assists and 2 points, but his impact was absolutely felt. First off, the team did come out hot, finally. They had a first quarter lead, second quarter lead. In fact, I think they led throughout the entire game. 2, and perhaps most importantly, fix the rotations. Pushing Barnes back to the bench gives us some kind of firepower to help us with the second unit so we don't have a hapless 5 out there who can't put the ball through the net. I was happy to see it.
He can put up the stats, but his impact is always much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And it was seen right off the bat in this game where the chemistry is still there.
Yep.
And he does so much to the floor spacing, to the defense. It's amazing to see him back. They went 4-8 without him, and as soon as he comes back, they're just firing on all cylinders.
No, you're absolutely right. And to kind of further what you're saying, he doesn't have a whole lot of personal stats, but you look at what he does to the team stats. For the first time in a long time, they held him to below 40% shooting, 37.5. That's something they did regularly with him in the lineup. Then the other teams were killing him without him. So even if he is not making the impact play that we can watch, he's not blocking shots or stealing balls, his rotations alone are help fixing all the problems apparently the Warriors had. It was damn good to see.
They needed this blowout because guys like Steph Curry have been playing way too many minutes.
Right.
Curry, I think, is averaging around 37, 39 minutes a game. Yeah. That's just too much for him.
Well, and just like you said, he also gives us a ball handler who isn't 56 years old, like Tony Douglas. Here's Iguodala on coming back and how he's not quite 100% healthy.
Felt good. I just got tired of watching. You get a new appreciation for the game. Especially seeing your brother struggle. But tonight was a great game by everyone. Just to get a win and put together a string of good basketball the way we did the first 3 quarters.
Do you feel 100% at this point? You have to kind of protect yourself a little bit.
I'm kind of protecting myself, but I'm getting closer and closer. And I still feel effective. I still see things on the court. And I still feel like I'm able to, let my presence be felt up on the game.
3 quick points for me, and then I'm ready to turn it over to your brand new segment, man, or at least the second installment of your brand new segment. 1, Another shout out to the Oracle crowd. Not only were they into it, but one of the things that always entertains me about them is that they're educated. We seemingly know when to cheer and when not to, and we don't need prompts on the scoreboard to do it. In this game, the first quarter, the crowd gave them 4 or 5 standing ovations, and it was in recognition that we've just been starting so damn slowly. They needed a spark. Oracle provided it, so another proof positive that they are, in fact, the best fans in the league. 2, Curry looked good. We haven't given him a whole lot of credit yet in this podcast. We're kind of used to his excellence, so we don't point it out so much, but he ended up with 28 and 12, and then continuing a weird theme for this podcast, so did Mo Spates. He showed a lot of heart. He fit in right where he needed to, gave us 18 hard minutes, and ended up with 12 and 6, so I was happy to see it.
All good things.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
And I lied to you. Last one, Austin Rivers. My God, man, that guy sucks.
He's terrible. I can't believe he's in the league.
He has gold shoes. I mean, like,
Yeah.
look, do whatever the hell you want with shoes. But if you are awful, like, if you're trying to prove yourself after being picked 10th, had one of the worst years ever in your rookie season, you're coming into the second year and Nike's like, here's your shoes, and there's gold all over it, you got to call them up and be like, no, I got to earn this.
You got to lay low.
That's exactly right.
You're not
Shouldn't
Michael
even be
Johnson.
wearing shoes. This guy was falling down every time he touched the ball. Either there is a sniper in the stands, which maybe, but if there wasn't, he needs to learn some balance because those gold shoes are not helping him out.
Totally agree.
So, Scotty, what's ahead?
Oh, man, you just butchered it. All right, well, we're going to go through some of the upcoming games, talk about the storylines, some things that excite us coming up. The Warriors tonight, Thursday, play the Spurs at home. It's a big game.
Huge game. A few announcements that came out during the day. First, Tony Parker is going to miss the game because of an ankle injury?
A shin injury.
Shin injury. All right, so Tony Parker's not playing either because they played last night or because Parker's not playing. Pop is pulling the rest of starters move, so he's resting the rest of them. Duncan and Manu are not in either.
Yeah, and I'm pretty happy about that, actually, because I think this should be a guaranteed win. They have to take care of business for sure. I mean, Spurs have shown that even without their starters, they took Miami to a last-second shot last year. So they got to take care of business, but I'll take the win over trying to get some scattering report about, getting some film tape that you can use later on when you're going to play the Spurs in the playoffs.
Especially with what's been happening with the Warriors, man. They, up until that Iguodala return and the win against New Orleans, we've been going in the wrong direction. At this stage, we need any win we can get. I don't care who they sit. They absolutely need to dominate these guys. And as kind of a random aside, I drafted this game to go to, much like the New Orleans game. And the only reason I drafted that, by the way, is because I wanted to see Anthony Davis, who didn't play, so that worked out pretty well for me. But I sold this one, San Antonio game.
Ooh, nice.
So I'm feeling pretty smart at this stage.
But you didn't sell it because you thought they were gonna rest the starters.
I didn't at all. Yeah, that happened months ago, and actually I feel a little bit. Actually, I don't feel bad about it at all. Just not at all. What's your guess? We win this one?
I think they win this one. I don't think it's gonna be a walk in the park, but they're gonna get it done.
Yeah, there's something about the Spurs and their system that even their backups is just not a slam dunk win, but hopefully we'll see it.
And then this Saturday, we got the Lakers at home. Now, news came out today that Kobe Bryant just got injured again. He fractured the lateral tibial plateau of his left knee. He's going to be out 6 weeks. I think he came back too early. I really do. I think it was his left leg, which is the same leg that had the Achilles injury. If you saw his left leg compared to his right, the left leg was so much smaller. So he lost a lot of muscle on that leg, and that muscle is going to help stabilize the kneecap and prevent fractures. So
you've got more medical knowledge than Jermaine O'Neal. Nicely played there, buddy. Maybe it's me getting sentimental in my old age. 2-3 years ago, I'd hear that and I'd celebrate. Now, honestly, I'm not that fired up about it. I don't think this guy has a whole lot of injuries left. I think there's a good chance that this one ends his career. I'm sure he'll make a comeback, but I don't know how many more years of Kobe Bryant we're going to have. Did you see the video the Lakers released when he first came back?
I did see that.
It was a shot of his jersey through the seasons. They just showed the jersey, and they showed it in sunshine, rain, sleet, and snow. It
looks like it's on a clothesline drying outside.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping now, in light of this news, they'll have a new video that shows vultures circling the jersey just because it might be over.
Didn't you just say you were getting sentimental and wouldn't get excited about this?
I felt really bad about saying that seconds afterwards, if that helps at all.
All right. Well, I do think that this should be another win for the War.
That's at home, right?
Yep.
We should be favored. I bet you the line on that's got to be at least +6, +7. I also think the Warriors will win it. There's something about those Laker games that always go a little bit strange. I mean, I've watched them beat us at Oracle so many times that I'll be nervous about it. But without Kobe, that team sucks.
Yeah, I totally agree. They're terrible. And so then on Monday...
So we both have them at 2-0 so far. I like where we're going. All right.
Monday, they're on the road at Denver, a hard place to play. You got the altitude. Thank you.
No problem.
Now, an interesting storyline from this game is, I don't know if you saw this, George Karl, who's no longer the head coach at Denver, but came out recently and accused Andre Iguodala of being a mole that was leaking information to Warriors players last year when Denver played the War in the playoffs.
I did see it. He was even more specifically, the information he leaked was that they were telling Denver players, or Carl was telling Denver players to hurt Steph or go after his ankles. I absolutely saw it. He also took shots at Mark Jackson. Said that Jackson was doing some quote-unquote Bush League tactics that didn't belong in the NBA, more specifically when Jackson was announcing his starters and then would put in an additional guy. It was a couple of ugly takes. Now, Carl isn't there anymore, but that doesn't mean that the return of Iguodala to Denver and the site of all those accusations isn't kind of important.
No, I think it's going to amp things up a little bit, and Iguodala is going to want to perform well. I don't see Iguodala as being the type of guy who's a mole. I really don't see it. He just seems like an upstanding citizen to me.
I don't know if those two are necessarily mutually exclusive. I don't know him. I don't feel like I've been watching him long enough to give you some educated opinion, even though you probably have to know the guy to actually.
No, it's all speculation, for sure.
I think that he did. It's very obvious he wanted to come to the Warriors. I mean, he came immediately thereafter. He helped broker the deal, and it's possible that he started that transition over. Because it was for us, I applaud it. You know, if it was one of our players being a mole, I'd call him a bitch. But in this instance, I'm happy to see it. This will be a tough one, though, man.
This will be tough. Denver's in the 8th seed for the 8th seed playoff-wise right now. Brian Shaw's doing a great job with this team.
Yeah, he finally got his chance to coach.
Yeah, I thought they would be terrible this year, losing a good coach like Carl.
And they're hurt. JaVale McGee and Gallinari's still not there.
Yeah, but they're winning, just kind of like Phoenix. Somehow these teams keep pulling out victories.
Bisha, Oakland, baby, went to Bishop O'Dowd. In fact, you can see his house from 580. I've been pointing it out for years and years. I am going to be pessimistic about this one just because I think we are due for a loss now that we have them at 2-0. I say they lose at Denver.
I think they're going to lose as well.
We are just agreeing way too much.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, just the right calls sometimes.
It is what it is. The truth is the truth, baby.
Now, a big game coming up, Christmas Day, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. We got the Clippers at Oracle. Now, this is a big game. There's something about playing on Christmas that ratchets up the intensity.
It's a marquee matchup. It's the NBA's version of the Thanksgiving game that the NFL does. If you make it in there, that means the NBA has decided that you're one of the teams that the nation wants to see. We knew that anyways because the Warriors have kind of been slowly going up in estimation. But yeah, it's a big deal for sure.
And this team, the Clippers, has some bad blood with the Warriors. Mm-hmm. Add to it, and this wasn't true the last time they played each other, add to it the fact that the Clippers have signed Steven Jackson. So
is he playing?
Yeah, he's played the last 5 games. He's only getting about 14 minutes, but he's playing, and this could get ugly.
I cannot wait for whatever post-game quote comes out of him. I have no idea what's going to happen in the game, no idea if he's going to play well, but I can tell you right now he's going to be our quote of the game, and I'm so excited to play it.
So, again, obviously, important Western Conference team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's what's ahead. There's 4 huge games against all Western Conference teams.
Give me your guess on the clip.
I think they lose this one.
I'm going to say they win. There's a bunch of interesting rivalries there. Steph always seems to really step up against Chris Paul and what's his name? Blake Griffin, who I can't stand, and apparently have blanked his name out of my mind. He and David Lee always go after it pretty hard. I think we will see some bad blood. It's unfortunate that they have Steven Jackson and his nasty ways to back them. But, yeah, I'm going to go Warriors win. I say we go 3-1 in the next 4. Sounds like you had us at 2-2?
Yep, 2-2. That's what I'm predicting.
All right, well, That's what's ahead, buddy. Nicely handled. Quick reminder before we get out of here, we are not going to be around next week, so happy holidays from the Huddle. That includes both Christmas and Hanukkah, although we're a little bit late on Hanukkah. Here's my quote before the closing. Reggie Jackson was once asked about the World Series, and he said, quote, "The only reason I don't like playing in the World Series is I can't watch myself play." What a savage. Please remember, if you're looking for us on Twitter, we are at Warriors Huddle. Our Gmail account is warriorshuddle@gmail.com. The website, letsgowarriors.com and nbahuddle.com. I guess that's warriorshuddle.com. And we can be found on iTunes and Stitcher and a bunch of other things.
Double Twist, BlackBerry,
Soon.
Zoom.
We are all over there. I tell you what, the one I'm focusing on iTunes, you can rate us and download us and subscribe us. Either way, we'd really appreciate it.
And tell your friends. We're trying to do this organically. Spread the word.
As many people as you can. We really appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
I want a Super Nintendo. Yeah. Sega Genesis. Street Fighter 2.
Santa Claus is coming straight to the ghetto. Santa Claus is coming straight to the ghetto. We wish you a happy new year.
Good.